So if you've heard the recent news about Boba Fett, then you know that he's going to be making a small appearance in season 2 of The Mandalorian. But the new news is that Boba Fett is going to be a big part of the story in season 3 of The Mandalorian. So in this video, I want to give you the top 3 reasons that Boba Fett has made his return to Star Wars. So stay tuned. What's up, Star Wars fans? My name is Prince and I'm an urban acolyte. So like I said, this video, I'm going to give you the top 3 reasons that Boba Fett has made his return to Star Wars and the 3 reasons why Boba Fett is going to have a big part in the ongoing story of The Mandalorian. But hey, before I get to all that Boba Fett stuff, I just want to say that if you're new here, hey man, we talk about Star Wars, the hero's journey, superheroes, kung fu movies, all that good stuff. So hit that subscribe button. Make sure you enable those notifications so that you know when I'm posting new videos. So anyway, getting to the news, if you haven't heard, the Direct is reporting that in season 2 of The Mandalorian, Ahsoka Tano, Sabine Wren, and Captain Rex are believed to be a part of season 2 along with Boba Fett. So going back to my video from yesterday where I said that Temuera Morrison was coming back, and then it makes more sense to me that he be coming back as Captain Rex rather than Boba Fett. Well, it looks like both might be happening. Now, the other news that isn't actually the topic of this video is that it is believed that the appearance of Ahsoka Tano, Sabine Wren, and Captain Rex in season 2 of The Mandalorian is going to set up the sequel to Star Wars Rebels, which we're hearing is going to have the animation like the most recent season of the Clone Wars. So that's something to look forward to. So there's going to be a direct spin-off to whatever Ahsoka, Sabine, and Captain Rex do with Din Djarin and Baby Yoda in their episode. That's going to set up the spin-off to Star Wars Rebels. Another thing that we're hearing is that Fennec Shand will appear. So going back to yesterday, hey, if you haven't seen yesterday's video, you probably ought to check it out. But the episode, The Gunslinger, that featured Fennec Shand, many people believe that at the end of the episode that Boba Fett was featured. Now, like I said before, I think I said it in the review video of that episode along with yesterday's video, that I thought that that character was most likely Cobb Vanth. If you don't know Cobb Vanth, I mentioned him previously, but I couldn't remember his name because it's been a long time since I read any of the Aftermath novels. Cobb Vanth was a slave on Tatooine. He freed himself, and he ends up acquiring a set of Mandalorian armor from some Jawas who scavenged the desert floor. I mean, that's what Jawas do after the Sarlacc died, right? So the Sarlacc monster, if you didn't know, died after the events in Return of the Jedi. All the stuff from Jabba's barge blowing up poisoned the Sarlacc. It died, and it basically puked up everything that was slowly digesting over the course of 1,000 years, right? So that means that if everything got scattered all over the desert, then possibly Boba Fett did survive because he was ejected. The Mandalorian armor that was found, maybe it wasn't Boba Fett's armor. If it was true Mandalorian armor, as it turns out, it would not have been Boba Fett's armor. Jango Fett, his armor was not made from Beskar or Mandalorian steel, as I thought it was called, but it was made from Durasteel. And if Boba, unless he acquired Beskar, then if he just took his father's armor and reforged it, repainted it, whatever, then that would not have been Mandalorian armor. Or maybe they don't know the difference. They just called it all Mandalorian armor. So that's something to think about, right? How did Boba survive? Did Boba survive? Now, based on what we're hearing, it appears that Boba Fett did survive, right? So that brings us to the 3 reasons that Boba Fett is back. Now, my first reason that Boba Fett is back in Star Wars is we got to remember what Jon Favreau said that he wanted to accomplish with the Mandalorian series. He wanted it to be something like Game of Thrones, right? And when we get to Game of Thrones, when we look at that, it's all about literally the game of the throne, right? Who's going to become the king of the known world, right? With the Mandalorian, look, we have this idea of Mandalore, like the title Mandalore, the ruler of Mandalore. Mandalore is not just a planet, right? Mandalore was a sector of space, right? It's several planets. This Mandalorian warlike culture where they spread Mandalore, and all these other planets fall under the realm of Mandalore, right? We learned in season 1 that there was kind of a caste system in Mandalore, in Mandalorian culture, right? And if you were rescued, the way Din Djarin was, if you were an orphan and you were taken in the way he was taken in by Death Watch, right? House Vizsla, right? Then you were kind of an outcast, kind of an untouchable. You were trained in the ways of Mandalore, but you could never remove your helmet. You were basically no one. You're a grunt. You're a foot soldier, right? And it sounds like Boba is similar to Din Djarin. His father is his clone, his father, Jango Fett, came from Concord Dawn, right? And we saw that planet in Star Wars Rebels. It was part of Mandalore. Whether or not he was orphaned, we don't know, but he does come from a Mandalorian planet. Now, in the Clone Wars episode when Obi-Wan spoke with, what was his name, Senator Almec or Governor Almec or whatever, he disavowed any knowledge of Jango. All he said was that he's a mercenary who wears Mandalorian armor, but he's not a Mandalorian. And the way I'm interpreting that right now is they don't consider him a true Mandalorian, meaning he was like one of those low caste, untouchable types like Din Djarin. He's not a true Mandalorian, right? Not by blood, not by house, not by any of that, so that it is what it is. So the number 2 reason that Boba Fett is back in Star Wars is that Boba Fett bridges the gap between the events that we're seeing in The Mandalorian and the past events, right? Boba Fett, because of him, right, he's literally an example. He's literally a physical example of the Clone Wars, the clone troopers, right? He was the only like pure genetic copy of Jango Fett, who was the host of the clones, the template, right? So he lived through all of that. He knows everything that went on Kamino. He could whatever that scientist from Kamino, or at least they had the Kamino symbol on his arm from season 1, whatever they were trying to do with Baby Yoda, Boba might be able to provide more information on that to the audience and to Din Djarin, right, as far as what experiments they were attempting to do with Baby Yoda, what Moff Gideon might be wanting to do with Baby Yoda, if indeed they were trying to clone him or perform some type of experiments on him. Additionally, Boba Fett hates the Jedi. He knows a lot about the Jedi. Din Djarin right now doesn't know, knows very little about the Jedi, so he could bridge the gap. Basically, Boba Fett is like this person. He's like the encyclopedia who can give you the background on all of this stuff that right now Din doesn't know, but probably needs to know moving forward, right? So he basically serves as like this kind of mentor character for Din, the mentor on the galactic history up to this point, which is very interesting. Now, the number 1 reason that I believe that Boba Fett is back is that he's going to serve in kind of a Luke Skywalker role. Luke Skywalker in the original saga, meaning Luke, although the original saga, and people misinterpret what this means because I say the original saga was Luke's story. It's about Luke. Yes, I know it's the redemption of Anakin Skywalker, but the story centers around Luke. Luke becoming a Jedi. Luke drives the story forward. Luke is on his hero's journey, right? But I don't mean that for Boba Fett. Because although everyone in Star Wars now who's a major character has their own hero's journey, if you take the time to map it out once you get enough of their story, right? But so that's a possibility. But what I meant was Luke in the redemptive role, right? In the case of Boba, I believe he's also here to redeem Jango Fett, right? Because what did I say earlier in point 1? That Jango is like Din Djarin, like my man DJ, although he's actually Din Djarin and DJARIN. He's like Django, the D is silent. I'm gonna still call him my man DJ because y'all know what I mean, right? So DJ and Big J, Jango Fett, are very similar in that I believe they both fall within that caste system, that structure. They both are like these untouchables, right? You can't take off your helmet. You're not a true Mandalorian, right? You're just here to be a grunt, a foot soldier, right? You're basically like a red shirt dude in Star Trek. I feel like now that DJ has his own clan, right? He has a name, right? The name, you know, I don't know if I've ever given that talk in Star Wars about like having a name that people recognize gives you an identity. That's a Bible thing, right? I got that from this guy who taught at Vanderbilt Divinity when he breaks down what Jesus of Nazareth means when he says the poor will always be among you. He broke down the word economoia, and it basically means that saying from Cheers, the place where everybody knows your name, right? If you don't have a name, no one knows you. They can't remember you. If you're an untouchable, you don't really belong to a house or a clan or anything. No one knows your name. No one recognizes you. You're no one. You're poor, right? DJ, now that he has a sigil, right? He has a sigil. He has a name. He has a house. He has a clan. He has his own clan. What is it, like Mudfoot or something like that? Jango, he can bring Jango along with him. Or I keep saying Jango, I mean Boba. But what I'm getting at is that by bringing Boba along with him, by Boba joining his adventure, he can restore the Fett name, right? Because they come from a planet, a Mandalorian planet. They weren't Mandalorians, but maybe in time they could have, right? Who knows? Somehow they were disgraced, they fell, and now this is the restoration, right? Boba becomes a hero where he was no one, he was a loner, just like DJ was no one, he was a loner, he was a bounty hunter, a very good bounty hunter with a great reputation within the Bounty Hunters Guild. That's it. But by defying that, by subverting everyone's expectation of what he was supposed to do, how he ought to act, right? Now he has a name. Now he's someone. And that same thing can happen with Boba Fett, right? So those are my 3 reasons. So to recap, Star Wars, The Mandalorian is like Game of Thrones. And at some point, when we get the bigger story, because right now we've only seen season 1, but the bigger story, the way it ended on that huge cliffhanger with Moff Gideon is Moff Gideon has the Darksaber. What happened with Bo-Katan Kryze, who, you know, looked like she should have been the leader of Mandalore following the siege of Mandalore, but the Empire came in, messed it up. Sabine Wren found the Darksaber, gives it back to Bo-Katan Kryze. There's a second siege of Mandalore, right, to oust the Empire. But Moff Gideon says the Empire came in and crushed that. What happened, right? So we have this ongoing story about restoring Mandalore, the leader of Mandalore, right? In Legends, at one point, Jango was Mandalore. So maybe that old story will come back. Maybe Boba Fett will end up becoming Mandalore at some point. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Point 2, Boba Fett bridges the gap between the past, the present, and the past, right? So he's kind of the computer, the encyclopedia, the Wikipedia for Din Djarin, who gives him all this information, fills him in on the galactic events, the Jedi, the Clone Wars, all this stuff that has affected Din Djarin because he was an orphan of the Clone Wars, right? That's how Death Watch ended up rescuing him, and he became a Mandalorian foot soldier, right? So that's point 2. Final point, reason that I believe that Boba Fett is back is to restore his name, restore his character, make him the hero that many Boba Fett fans feel he ought to be. Or I don't know, some of y'all are twisted. Y'all like to cheer for the villains, and I will never understand that. But hey, man, this is my channel where I share my opinions. I'm not judging anybody. It's just my opinion. If you don't agree, that's okay, because it's my opinion, right? Some people out there like to lick ass. I don't, but I don't judge those of you who do. Hey, man, nothing wrong with a nice tossed salad every now and then. It's just that I prefer my tossed salads with lettuce and croutons and onions and other stuff. And I don't know, some of y'all like syrup or jelly. You do you, I'ma do me. Hey, man, don't forget about the Jumpstart program. Click the link, get signed up so you can get that body right, start your Jedi training, Spider-Man training, Captain America training, whatever it is, your Mandalorian training, whatever it is you're trying to do. Hey, man, jump on this free 6-week jump start. But hey, man, what do you guys think about the return of Boba Fett? Are you excited? Are you not excited? Are you just like, you know what, I'm gonna wait and reserve my judgment for when I actually get to see the Mandalorian? That's basically how I feel. I'm not a Boba Fett fan. I really wasn't a fan of the Mandalorian when on the lead up. I just wasn't excited about it. But you know what? When it came out, I was like, hey, man, I really like this. I like that it gives me something to talk about. And the story is great, and I'm all here for the story. It doesn't do what I want it to do. I want to see Jedi and learn about the Force. But hey, man, you can always find a reason to like stuff in Star Wars if you look hard enough. And that's all I really try to do here, right? So I'm not a Lucasfilm fanboy or an apologist. I just try to find the things that I like, the things that drive me and make me want to train every day, and that's it. So anyway, leave me your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll be checking back to see what y'all have to say. If you haven't subscribed already, go ahead, click that subscribe button and take your first steps towards becoming an urban acolyte. Embark on the journey to become the hero of your own story and become a force for change in your community. Continue to support the channel. You can do that by sharing these videos, and be sure to check out some of the other videos that YouTube is recommending just for you. Anyway, that's all I got for this one. Thanks for watching. Y'all keep on breathing, and may the force of others be with you.